In this unit, we're going to talk about attraction and intimacy. As I was thinking about this chapter and how I was going to describe it in the invitation video, I was thinking about how there's lots of different ingredients in terms of being attracted to somebody. And so here we are, back in the kitchen. We're going to bake brownies because it involves multiple ingredients, right? At least a box and eggs and oil and yeah, I'm reaching, but that's okay. So when we talk about attraction, there's a couple different things that we definitely know. We know that we are more likely to be attracted to people that we are physically, geographically close to. So you're more likely to be attracted to your next door neighbor than you are to some person who is 500,000 miles away or something like that. Now, the question becomes, with the advent of the internet and online dating and all that sort of stuff, is that different? And we do find that relationships where people are physiologically close to one another, where they get to visit with each other, hang out with each other in person, are more likely to last longer than attraction that is based upon simply visually interacting with somebody. So even if we are physically in the same place for a short period of time, once per week, once per month, something like that, that relationship's more likely to last longer than a relationship that is solely based upon talking on the phone or talking on the internet. So we also know that people that we are exposed to more often, things that we're exposed to more often as well, if you're working in advertising, are more likely to be attractive to us. So if you see somebody often, you're more likely to feel attracted or comfortable with them than you are if you only see someone, once a month, things like that. So if we're trying to get people to like us, then being around them geographically and seeing them often, the mere exposure effect, are both going to be useful and important. We do know that people find other people who are similar to them attractive, and one of those things that we know happens is what we call the matching phenomenon, which is the idea that we match ourselves with people who are both similar to us in level of attraction, but also similar to us in terms of values and ideals. If you look at the research on who stays married or who stays together in terms of a long-term relationship, we find that the people who share values and ideals are more likely to stay together for longer than people who simply share or are matched upon interests. So values are going to be way more important than, we both like ice hockey type deal. But we also see that people match in terms of their level of attraction. So you're less likely to see one person who's excessively more attractive than another person in a relationship together, whereas we're more likely to see people who are similar in their level of attractiveness, similar in their socioeconomic status, similar in their physiological, how they look. Are they overweight? Are they underweight? Are they average weight? Things like that. Another concept that is useful and interesting from this unit is the idea of attachment. And if you've taken your lifespan course before, you've probably talked about this. So attachment is basically the relationship that we have with a primary caregiver, and that relationship can then move on into how we interact with our significant others when we get older. So some people are securely attached. They look to their significant other when they are upset for guidance and to help them relax or calm down. We also find that some people are insecurely attached. There's a couple different types of that. Some people are avoidant. Some people are anxious in relation to having a relationship with a significant other. So sometimes people will simply avoid developing relationships, whereas other times people will do what I call the push and pull, which is the idea of sometimes they want you and sometimes they recognize that we're getting too close and they'll push you away. And this is based upon, those behaviors are based upon the experiences that we had in childhood, most likely with our attachment figures. So another thing that we see that benefits relationships is that both people have the same type of attachment styles. Hopefully both are securely attached, and that there is what we call equity within the relationship, which means that one person does not feel over-benefited or under-benefited. So a person who recognizes that, the other person pays all the time, the other person does things for them all the time, but they don't do something for the other person, they will feel over-benefited and will not feel comfortable with the relationship. Whereas someone who's under-benefited, so the opposite, the person who does everything for the other person, who, pays for everything, that person is not going to feel a level of equity within the relationship either, and is more likely to end the relationship than a person who is over-benefited. So a lot of times students ask me, how is it that relationships develop, and then what happens when that relationship ends? And many times the thing that we find the most attractive about another person is actually the person that then can flip on us and kind of turn it into the thing that makes us least attractive. So if we thought that the other person was funny and that's why we became attracted to them, one of the things that we find is that after 6 months, a year or so, you start thinking to yourself, geez, is this person ever serious? And that's what starts to kind of detract from the relationship. Again, same coin, just different sides of it. So a lot of times when students tell me about their new relationships and what I ask them, what do you really like about them? And I kind of wait for a couple months to see what's going to happen with the relationship. And a lot of times what you will see is that the opposite is what they don't find attractive. So, they find that the person really likes them, is attractive, and then 6 months later they're like, but they're always all over me, and they're always calling me and texting me, and I just wish that they'd leave me alone every once in a while. Same coin, just different sides of it. So we do see that initially what we liked can influence what we eventually dislike, or turn into what we eventually dislike. And then why do relationships end? Well, there's a couple different reasons. Sometimes it's because people grow apart because their values change, or maybe because their relationship wasn't based on shared values in the first place. It was based on shared interests, which again, we noticed previously that shared interests are not going to lead to a long-term relationship, whereas shared values are what's going to lead to that long-term relationship. So the focus on something that wasn't particularly beneficial to a relationship can cause our relationships to end as well. So hopefully you guys learned some useful information from this unit about relationships, how to make them better, and it will help you to keep your relationships going, but again, don't use it kind of as the dark side, because then if you do, you'll turn people into people who like you but for the wrong reasons. And then is that really attraction, or is that just, stalking? So enjoy the chapter. I hope you learned some interesting stuff. Thanks.